Hi, and welcome to Deep Leadership. I'm your host, John Rennie. Well, I hope all is well with you today. It is Saturday morning, and I'm drinking a hot cup of Bottom Gun coffee from my friends at bottomguncoffee.com. I have another special show lined up for you today. Now, if you're a regular subscriber, you know that the last 2 weeks we've had some amazing guests. Former submarine commander Ryan Ramsey taught us about what it's like to lead a nuclear submarine crew. And we've also had legendary leadership authors Ken Blanchard and Randy Conley come talk to us about servant leadership and trust. Well, today we also have another special guest. Marjorie K. Eastman will be joining us to talk about leadership and why it's about service. Marjorie is a U.S. Army combat veteran who was called to serve after the events of 9/11. She is an award-winning author, speaker, and entrepreneur, and now she's being called to serve again. She is running for U.S. Senate to represent my state, the state of North Carolina. Now, I've known Marjorie for years, and I've always loved her writing and the work she has done for veteran business owners. I wanted to get her on the show to talk about why she feels the call to serve in government. Now, let me say this up front. This is not a political episode. This is about leadership and service. And to be honest, I think we need more leaders like Marjorie in our government. So, are you ready to dive in? Let's get started.
Welcome to Deep Leadership. Leadership is a people business. That's the philosophy of your podcast host, John Rennie. As a former Cold War submarine officer who spent 20 plus years leading businesses in corporate America before starting his own manufacturing business, he knows that leadership matters. Are you ready for some real-world actionable advice from John as well as his expert guests?
I'm ready.
The show starts right now.
Welcome to the Deep Leadership Podcast. Today I'm joined by Marjorie K. Eastman. Marjorie is a United States Army veteran who served combat tours in both Iraq and Afghanistan. She is an author, speaker, and entrepreneur. She is the author of the award-winning book, The Frontline Generation, How We Served Post 9/11. She is now running for U.S. Senate to represent the state of North Carolina. Marjorie and I met when she and I were active in the military entrepreneur community here in Raleigh. I've always enjoyed her approach to service and leadership, so I wanted to get her on the show to talk about why she decided to enter the world of politics. So, Marjorie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Sean. I'm so excited to be on.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you and to have this discussion. I don't think I've ever talked to anyone running for Senate before, so this will be a fun discussion. So,
well, it's a first for me, I'll tell you that. I'm right there with you.
I wanted to get a little bit of your background up for people who don't know you, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, tell us a little bit about your initial decision to join the military. Why did you feel that pull to serve after 9/11?
It was 9/11. I mean, if we could all just go back 20 years and remember what we felt that day, remember what it was. And for me, it was just crystal clear. I wanted to help. I wanted to do something. So I was looking at all different ways. How do I help my country? And I looked through Teach for America. I looked at the Peace Corps, and I kept coming back to the military because it really was my match. It was just where I knew that's where I needed to go. So that's where it began for me.
And you actually started off enlisted and then quickly was commissioned as an officer. Tell us a little bit about that and just give us a flavor for what you did in the military.
Well, I enlisted because I knew I wanted to serve. I wasn't going in for it to be a career or necessarily to do a certain path. I just wanted to not sit on the bench. I wanted to do something big for my country. And so my dad gave me some great advice at the time. And he said, look, you don't need a title to be a leader. And in fact, this is what I learned, and you learn this through life. Just because you have a title doesn't make you a leader either. And so, I went in enlisted. It matched up well exactly with the job set and the job skills that I was going to do immediately. And after that first combat tour, I was assigned to a special operations task force and supported Operation Iraqi Freedom 1. And, it was right after that I came back and I received and had a direct commission. So I became an officer pretty quickly, like you described. And then, so I'm a Mustang. And I, grew up the rest of my time in the military and having that perspective.
Yeah, the most respected officers, I think, are Mustangs, the ones that have prior enlisted. So that's great. And you served in intelligence, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. So, and you did both. You were enlisted in Iraq and then an officer in Afghanistan. And you had you had like more than 100 people reporting to you during that time in Afghanistan. What did you observe about the people that served post 9/11? You call them the frontline generation. I love that. What did you learn about them during your service in both theaters?
Oh, I just, I love them. And it doesn't mean you like them all the time. There's definitely people that you don't like, personalities or whatever, but you love them because of the selflessness. And they're from all walks of life and they are there to help. How can you not love that? And, there's so many stories in my book where I really peel this back. My book starts out talking about, I want to serve, I want to help, and then you see as I grow in those 20s, especially growing up as a soldier and as an officer, it's not about me. It's about we. And the whole concept of the frontline generation is it's always about the person to your left and to your right. And this is in combat and here at home. So it was that essence of, the people that will rise and stand by your side and address something tough and tackle the things that other people might not.
Yeah. And this was truly, we call, the World War II generation, the greatest generation. But when I look at the people that served post 9/11, I think that's another great generation. And I have hired many post 9/11 veterans, and they're just phenomenal people with a mindset of leadership and a mindset of service. And that's why I've always loved what you talk about, because I do think that it's another great generation that has stepped up in our country.
It really is. And in the very beginning of my book, I kind of touch on this idea of the frontline generation. It's not time stamped to like this year to that year. It's any generation, any era of when will you and who will it be that says, hey, count me in.
Yeah. So they're willing to step up. Yep.
Yeah. There's so many generational lessons through all of this. And I've seen that quite a bit on the campaign trail too. I know we'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's the bonds are real. They're very much there. Whether you served in Korea or Vietnam, or maybe you were just stateside, it doesn't matter. We have these connections and these bonds that are pretty unequaled, I would say.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. What unique would you say, if you look back at your time as a leader in the military, especially in combat theater, what are some lessons that you took away from a leadership perspective that maybe people who are running businesses or nonprofits may not get that kind of experience? What are some lessons that we can learn from your time as a leader in Afghanistan?
I love that. Okay, I'm going to give you two right away that come to mind. There's a chapter in my book where I talk about you see a light, you don't hear one. And in the military, we have these great terms and words. We have a command philosophy. If you remember that as commanders, you write that out. What's the commander's intent? Well, this is all absolutely, can transfer over in business and life all the way. But the essence of you see a light, you don't hear one is, any command philosophy that you may espouse, pales in comparison to actually how you walk in this world. People will see your actions, and that will always be louder than anything coming out of your mouth. So, as officers, this, John, that you eat last, you take care of your people. There's that essence there. It's all got to be baked in. And so that's number one. And I would say number two, don't count anybody out. Challenge your biases and your judgments. And I think about a story where I served with one of my very young millennial soldiers. And it's not that I had a bias per se, but she surprised everybody because no one expected. But she was the one that unearthed the largest weapons cache of over 500 munitions outside of Bagram. And here she is, this like young Black woman, millennial, brand new out of school with her training. And she's the one that had this outstanding, I mean, talk about a game-changing discovery that we had there in that year, 2009 through 2010. So it's just, she was just amazing. And there's a whole chapter dedicated to that story in her. And, it's so much about, not just asking why. Well, why would I pick this person or that? But you also have to challenge and say, why not? Because everybody brings important perspective.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. In fact, I talk about it in my book as well. My latest was one of my sailors. The chapter is called "No Escape." You can't escape from challenging employees because we were locked in a metal tube in the middle of the ocean. But it turns out my youngest and most my problem child as a sailor turned out to be my best sailor, because he just had to figure him out and motivate him in the direction that he was motivated. He was extremely intelligent, but every time he was bored, he'd get in trouble. So, but it was this idea of leading the people that you have. And I like what you say, don't count anyone out. Don't give up on them. Find their niche and find their place, and people will surprise you with what they can do if you give them the opportunity. So I love that story.
Amen to that. And that's what we need now in our state and in our country. We need that heart, that essence, that perspective, that attitude, yes. Because we have a lot in front of us, and our best days are in front of us for sure.
Yes. I tend to agree with that. I'm an optimist as well. And that's really good to hear. I want to get on that in a little bit. But I was going to ask you, the Frontline Generation was such a great book. I read it when it first came out. What has been the response to that book over the years? I know you've won awards and you've got a chance to speak around the country. What has been the response overall with the message those messages in that book?
Well, I always tell people, I think you and I spoke about this when you and I were talking about your book,
yes,
which I highly encourage everybody to read. I have a special shelf, actually. I didn't expect this when I became an author. I call myself fondly an accidental author.
Yes.
But I have a special collection of books that are personally signed that I've exchanged with a lot of other veteran authors, and it's on a special part of my bookshelf. But what I shared with you, I think, and I share with anyone, especially if you're looking to write a book, is if you want your life to do a few somersaults,
yes,
publish the book. So
yes.
It's I wrote my book. I was finishing business school. I had my little boy, and my little boy was diagnosed with cancer. Mm-hmm. And that was a major turning point in my life. I was still in the military, like the reserve on the books. I was, finishing up my MBA from Vanderbilt. We have our precious little baby, and that just, talk about a crucible. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was just a complete shift in mission. That's actually when and why I left the military. And I'll fast forward for all your listeners. Today, my little boy is 9 and he's cancer free. Awesome. But it was that moment and that challenge in my life. When I left business school, I didn't go run to one of the great consulting firms and get my ROI, so to speak. I ended up taking a year off, and I was taking my son back and forth to the hospital. And, when he got to that, and during that time, it was so close to my return from my command time from Afghanistan, I was reminding myself that I was strong. And I was writing these stories down for my son, Hank, because it was going to shape the man that he would become one day, because he was going to be a man. I was convincing myself he was going to be a man, and he's going to be a man someday. And he's going to read about Mac and Schmitty and Vasquez and all these great lessons from the post 9/11 generation. And so that very much, I wrote the book, and I had it literally saved as a Word document on my desktop. And I had told enough people about it, and I got enough signs to realize, let's just publish this. Yeah. Because it is so much the story of who we are post 9/11 generation. And as you learn in business school, if there's like a felt need or an opening or something's missing in the marketplace, then put it there. That's what you do. And no one was talking about our generation this way, that we are an unmatched currency. And some of those deeper stories too, that less than 1% have served of our country. Less than 1% has worn a uniform since 9/11. That's a big part of this story that people don't know. Yeah. So yeah, my life went in a totally different direction, but it led me to entrepreneurship, and it led me to supporting veteran entrepreneurs and kind of meshing my love and passion for the military family and the veteran community and entrepreneurship and all that I had just, really not you learned in the military so much, but also what I had just kind of cut my teeth at and I got my education on at Vanderbilt at the business school.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
One ping only, please. As I thought, John Rennie's new book, All in the Same Boat, is right over there. It's at allinthesameboatbook.com. Your orders are to get there now. And remember, be careful what you shoot at. Most things in here don't react too well to bullets.
Is your boss a jerk? I understand you're in the hospital, but I'm going to need you to come in today. Do they lack any ability to actually lead people? Oh, it's fine. I'll just find somebody else that can do it, okay? John is offering a new service just for you. For only $10, he will anonymously mail a copy of his best-selling book, I Have the Watch, to your boss with a personal note. Go to IHaveTheWatch.com and enter the discount code BOSS at checkout.
I want to talk about the Senate run, but I've got to ask you about the post 9/11 DECA 52 project that you led.
Yes.
That was very special, and I think it leads a little bit to your character. So I wanted to talk about it. Tell us about that post 9/11 DECA 52, where you were talking about post 9/11 veteran organizations. Tell us a little bit about that, because I think it tells a lot about who you are as a person.
Oh, thank you. So this really goes back to my first deployment in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. And to maybe some of the listeners that are about our age group, or maybe a little bit more, they would probably remember the DECA 52 Most Wanted, where Saddam Hussein was the ace of spades.
Yep.
Well, I was, at the time when I was forward deployed, we were part of that work and that mission. We were printing those off and, putting rubber bands around them, making sure all the operators had them in their pockets. So, because it was a nice, easy, quick way to identify the high value targets. And, it's a long-standing tradition in the military. Back in World War II, bicycle playing card actually had a deck of the silhouettes of aircraft.
Yep.
I actually have one. My husband ended up getting me one as a way to go girl, because what happened was, I was writing a weekly business column highlighting amazing veterans or military families post 9/11 who had started businesses or charities. And I was doing it by way of that catchy visual of making them a playing card. Well, it ended up becoming a collector's deck with bicycle. And so altogether, it was this great piece of work that it's a bicycle collector's deck, and it's called the Frontline Leaders Post 9/11 Generation. It was the first one they did as a tribute to the military since that Most Wanted deck. So it was timely and fitting, and it highlights our brothers and sisters and their amazing work and how they offer an unmatched currency here at home in our economy and in our society and our culture, which is so important.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think it does highlight like how that's a difficult project, what you took on, which you have 52 different businesses. You've got to get them all, aligned to let's do this project together. And then you've got to get bicycle playing card to convince that you're going to highlight these great veteran organizations. So it's a story of service, but it's also perseverance and, connecting people with maybe different opinions and different attitudes and bringing them all together for one big project, which is a lot like our government.
Yes, it is. Well, I was trained to do that in the intel community, but I really give credit to my parents because I'm from a very large family and I'm in the middle. So you'd always have to wrangle everybody to get everybody moving in one direction to get dinner on the table,
Right, right.
But you're right. It's about building coalitions. I mean, I remember, when I came back from Afghanistan and I was doing a different job interview, and the job interviewer, he had said, "Oh, okay, so I see you're military, so you're probably check, you're probably good at being on a team." And I kind of bristled, and I'm like, "No, I'm not a good team member. I build nations. We build alliances and coalitions. this is an intensity, I promise you, you'll never forget. This is who we are. And,
Right.
like when we talk about government, after World War II, 70% of Congress were veterans.
Right.
Look at today, it's about 17%. And there's a direct correlation between the decline of veterans and the increase in divisiveness, vitriol, not getting legislation passed, not getting the budget passed on time. I mean, veterans know how to work together, and we know how to get stuff done. And so it's clean, it's simple. We need more veterans in our Congress right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think the other thing veterans do is we work together regardless of where you come in the country, what your religious background is, what race, ethnicity. We're working together towards a mission, a common mission, and that is to achieve the mission and get home safely. And I think we were on the same team, and we weren't. And I think we kind of we're missing that we're Team America. Sometimes we're always internal battles versus external battles.
That's right. So what's one more label? Oh, are you Republican or are you Democrat? I mean, it's like as veterans, we start with our identity. We're American. And we have this love and this commitment to the mission and taking care of our country. I mean, that's our starting point, period.
I love that. So why the pull? So why did you feel the pull to serve again? Because I think in this case, if I'm going to read, just knowing you that this is a service play for you, how can you serve? Why do you feel the pull to serve again now? In this case, go into the U.S. Senate.
Well, I could do 100 other things. It'd probably be a heck of a lot easier than this. I'll tell you that. But seriously, for me. Last August was a second 9/11 moment for me. I was a commander on the ground in Afghanistan during the rough surge years. I knew exactly what was going on over there. And in that war, I've held the hands of the little girls that we helped get back to school. It's on the book cover, my book cover. I woke up at sunrise and rendered 4-second delayed salute to our fallen heroes. And so that fall of Afghanistan, it was personal, and it was disastrous. It was reckless and completely emotional. And it just, as I was pulling that back, those couple of weeks and thinking about it deeply, it the root of that crisis and all these crises that we're surrounded with, it all gets down to failed leadership.
Yes. We
have career politicians making decisions on getting reelected on public opinion polls. And that is not a leader. We need people that make decisions based off of conditions on the ground or a national security interest. That's what leaders do. But we've gone astray. And for decades now, we have these career politicians that have just embedded themselves in our government. And it was never supposed to be that way. And so it's time. And so why the Senate? That's where the battle is. Right now, our country is deadlocked, and we are about to tip. And we need to tip our country right. We need to get our country back on track and be us again. And so I'm a soldier at heart. I'm always going to run to the battle. I'm always going to run to the fight. So the fight's the U.S. Senate. And when I did my assessment of looking at who was running here in the state, no veterans. I'm the only veteran that's running for the U.S. Senate in North Carolina. And I'm running against all career politicians who are just looking for promotion and they want to stay and put a 10 up. And I'm not doing it. I'm not sitting around anymore. I'm not going to plug my nose and vote for the lesser of two evils or just go, okay, party line. All of us, we are all there, and it is ready to take our country back.
I love to hear that. That's great. So let me ask you this. What's it like being a political outsider, joining into the Senate race? Why is it so hard for outsiders to get to run? It didn't used to be this way. As you mentioned, now we have career politicians, but it used to be the citizen politician that they would serve, and they would go back to their home districts, right? It wasn't a permanent job class that's out there today. How hard has it been to break into this?
Well, I think the biggest challenge for being a political outsider is money. Citizens United has a little bit to do with that. If any of your listeners go back and look in that a little bit. But the money and the power of the incumbency for these career politicians, it favors them because they can take their war chest of the money they've acquired from all these different levels where they've been stacking it up and roll it over and bring it in, and they have that competitive advantage. I mean, it's just like they're starting on third base. And, I'm coming to the, and I'm stepping up and I'm at the diamond and I'm starting, I'm swinging it home, right? And I'm just like, you know what? Don't worry. I've seen The Sandlot. I know how this works. No. So, yes. At the end of the day, it's the challenge is there. That's the biggest challenge about being the outsider is I don't have decades and years of a donor list. And if the only other solution to that is, well, then you got to, if you can bring in a ton of money, if you're self-funded. Well, I am a real average, like here I am American. I have a house payment. I'm saving for my son's college. I don't have multi-million of dollars to go in and throw in to help and get myself on third base automatically with these other career politicians. So it's the good old fashioned way. It's hard work and I'm not afraid of that. And it's, you present the message. And if you're compelling enough, the money starts coming in and people get behind you in all the ways that they can. And that's what we're seeing, John. Our first quarter fundraising, we had the same number of donors. Our numbers actually exceeded the 3 career politicians that I'm running against.
Wow.
So we had more people donating at the lower dollar level to the top max out. And that's a testament so much to where we are at. People are ready for a fresh voice and a political outsider.
Oh, I think that's great. I'm really excited to hear that. One thing I noticed, I follow you on Instagram and you've been traveling the state and you've been meeting people and going to different businesses. And what has that experience been like? And what have you learned from the people in North Carolina as you traveled around?
I have to tell you, so as we all know, we've just been through the pandemic and we're still, fighting our way out of it. And my husband has lovingly joked with me for an extrovert to be trapped indoors for 18 months. He's like, go shake a million hands. I'm like, okay, and I'm an extrovert. I'm a natural people person. I love people and I'm a former intel officer. So I love asking questions. I love hearing from people. And so you're right, traveling across the state, talking with people, I just wish I had a documentary, people following me or a little GoPro or something, because I just can't write the intel reports fast enough, so to speak, on, hey, this is what's happening on the ground. People are talking about security, economy, and education. They want, to get moving forward. They don't want this awful, career politician negativity, all the stuff we're seeing with the career guys I'm running against. And, they're ready. They're ready to just, really forge a path beyond this pandemic.
I love to hear that. I was looking through your website and you made mention to Reagan. Is that an influence to you, or what especially about Reagan do you like?
Oh my goodness. I was just talking about this with someone else. I really I can relate deeply to his optimism. My husband actually jokingly for many, many years, since we first met, back in 2002, 3-ish timeframe, he's always jokingly called me Positive Polly. And so, I not to say my head's in the clouds. I'm very much understand the reality of life in the world, but I am aspirational and optimistic. And I think that's what we love so much about Reagan. And that marries up so well to my own natural disposition and constitution. And so, I just think that he's a great example in so many ways of how he created a big tent. And he would say, hey, if we agree 80% of the time, that doesn't make you 20% a traitor. I mean, he just had such wonderful words and wonderful, perspective. And I think that that's so much of the essence of what we need to bring back.
Oh, I love to hear that. That's so good. Well, you talked about this. Let me just ask one final question before we wrap up. Why do you think it's critical? You mentioned this about having more veterans in Congress, even in the White House. Why is it more important? Why is it important to get more veterans in Washington?
Well, I would say 2 things. We work together and we get stuff done. Those are the two most salient aspects of it. And, what I'd also say too, for North Carolina, it's been a long time since we've had a veteran as a U.S. Senator. So if you can believe it, the last time we had a veteran as a U.S. Senator was Jesse Helms. He was a Navy recruiter during World War II. And the last time we had a combat veteran like myself was actually Terry Sanford, who served in the Battle of the Bulge. And so, here I served on the front lines, in Afghanistan, overseas, obviously. And, we need to bring that perspective in. And I haven't, bragged enough about my husband, but I'm a military spouse as well. And I get the military family. I said goodbye to my husband a lot of times. My husband did 17 combat tours with the Special Operations community post 9/11. So, we need to bring that perspective. And I think that's very important for our next U.S. Senator to have.
I agree. That sounds great. So how can our listeners help in your campaign?
Oh, my goodness. Please check out our website. It's MarjorieKEastman.com. We have a couple of social media platforms. I think we're on Twitter. I never do Twitter. My team helps me with that. And Facebook, and I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn. That's where I'm personally most active. We need your help here on the ground, but we need to also rally support for donors. Anyone in the country can donate to a candidate, no matter where they are. So if you're a veteran or a military family member anywhere in the country, you can help me win here in North Carolina. So on the website, MarjorieKEastman.com, there's an easy little donate button too, and that goes a long ways.
Okay, fantastic. We'll put a link in the show notes for that resource. And Marjorie, I just appreciate you coming on the show, and I wish you the best of luck in this campaign. And I do think that we need more veterans, we need more leaders, we need more people who have done things, hard things, and have worked together. We need those type of people in Washington. So congratulations on moving in this direction, and we wish you the best in your Senate run.
No, thank you, John. I appreciate it so much to be on your show.
Well, thanks again. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.
Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and updates, please visit our website at www.deepleadershippodcast.com or johnsrennie.com. Until next time, take care.
Are you passionate about saving the planet for future generations? Do you want to learn how to do it? If yes, then you need to tune in to the Nature Backed podcast. It's a talk show covering the changing world around us, from renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, circular economy, to ESG and social innovation. Don't miss this opportunity to discover how you can join the movement and make a difference. Subscribe to the Nature Backed podcast today on your favorite platform and get ready to be amazed.
Hey, what's happening out there, everybody? This is Lawrence Ross, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about my podcast, The Lawrence Ross Show.
Egomaniac.
It's a 2-hour weekly exploration into my mind. I also do sketches, celebrity impersonations.
You're out of order!
And I also do song parodies. Not too shabby for a blind guy.
Not only are you visually impaired, but you are geographically impaired.
New episodes are released every Friday. Check it out on your favorite podcasting platform or listen to it here on Society 13 on Electrocast.